Hey, welcome to another episode of Clear Lake Connections, where we talk to the people behind the businesses of Bay Area, Houston, proudly sponsored by UTMB Health. Special guests today, Jim and Jane Sweeney with Minuteman Press. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the history of your involvement with Minuteman Press, the chamber, the community. Let's dive in. How did you get started in the business?
Minuteman Press, the franchise, and I don't know, 29 years ago now, I started looking at wanting to get out of corporate life and do something on my own, and I actually attended a franchise show. They have these in Houston, franchise shows, and this really beautiful booth, and this 6'7" tall guy just reached out and grabbed me and pulled me into the booth. Turns out he was a retired professional basketball player, and
Working for Minuteman.
And did the song and dance and whatever, and I just started kind of looking into it, and they call you back and they have a whole thing, and I hadn't told Jane any of this yet, and they started taking me around I was in sales at that time, so I had a little free time, and they started taking me around a couple different, like today we had a visitor because there was a franchise show 2 weeks ago, so they brought somebody into our store to tour the shop, and I did some of that, and then knew that there was a place here in Clear Lake, and long story, but this is funny, and so I finally got up the nerve to tell Jane that I was looking at this, right, and she said, no, we're not gonna do it, because I worked for corporate job, whatever, and she said, okay, if we're gonna do it, it's got to be here in Clear Lake. I'm not gonna. I said, well, there's already a franchise here in Clear Lake. We can't have that one. I said, we're not doing it then, And then I went to visit the lady here, and she said, as I was leaving, she said, if you guys really would be interested in a Clear Lake location, I'm interested in selling. So, of course, I, scurried back and told Jane that, and Jane said, we'll never get the money for that, And then July 15th, 28 and a half years ago, I turned in my resignation and walked out the door. Here we are.
Big commitment.
Big commitment.
Took a risk, but that's business, right? You take a risk, and then hopefully there's a reward. Now, you guys get along so well. You work together.
Usually.
How does that work? We've had so many married couples, and I'm amazed that I don't think my wife and I could do it. I love her, but I don't think we could work together.
When we first met in college, it was because we were working together. And at that time...
No, I was the boss.
At that time, he was the boss. Well, that, of course, has changed. But I don't know. We just have easygoing personalities and kind of work off of each other's... Talents, yeah.
Yeah, that's a common theme I find, is that you both couples in these business relationships bring something to the table and make it work. That seems to be a common theme.
Oh, absolutely. Jane has always been the people person, and even when I was in sales, in corporate sales, I was terrible at getting information out of people. Jane could sit down next to somebody, and she knew what their mother's name was and where their grandmother lived, in 15 minutes. I'm still eating my salad, and that's just she's carried that through the business. I'm more of a strategist and
numbers
guy,
sure.
and thinking of the next big thing and that kind of stuff.
So talk a little bit about, okay, you've been in this a long time, 29 years. That's a nice long time. What's changed? How has business changed over the years? What are your we talk a lot in these episodes about how in business you're always got to try new things. You always got to be growing, because if not, the converse is true. What's changed over the last 20 years?
Right, grow or die. That's exactly right. Gosh.
When we started Minuteman, we had 2 printing presses, heavy metal sitting on the floor. We had a press operator, and that's what we did. We put ink on paper. Literally, we put ink on paper.
And then we got another one, yeah.
And then the digital age started coming around because people started wanting color. And we could do color on the presses, but it was a lot more expensive. So we got our first little small digital color copy, and I don't forget how much we charged for color copies.
It was 3 copies a minute.
Yeah, it was so slow, yeah. And it's just changed. As the demand grew, people wanted color, they wanted it faster, they wanted it cheaper. And so then the industry moved to digital presses.
Right now you got the Amazon experience, right?
Yeah.
You order, you expect to have it same day. And it's kind of like that. But with equipment we have now, we're basically an all digital shop. We sold the last printing press about 5 years ago to another Minuteman, and we went all digital. We've got two large production color printers. We have the capability of outputting, instead of 3 copies a minute now, 160 full color copies per minute. And then and making booklets and all that stuff. It's all in line. It's all automatic now, kind of stuff.
And then the world decided, you know what? You have my digital files. You have my logo. What else can you do? So then the industry kind of moved to not just ink on paper and digital copies, but can you do signs? So we added that equipment to this, and then we started dabbling a little bit in apparel. And then when COVID hit and the world shut down, as far as people weren't doing events, which is a large part of what we do, and they weren't making sales calls. They didn't need their brochures. They didn't, but they needed face masks. So Jim got out there, and he scoured and scrounged.
That was a big pivot. I mean, from you could almost, from the printing press to the digital printer, it's still kind of ink on paper. Even signs is still ink on something, but this was different. So
he started finding face masks and medical stuff for people, and we kind of became the go-to person in the area for that, because he was finding it. He was getting it from China. As much as we don't prefer to deal with them, that's where they were being manufactured. Yeah. And so we started doing face masks, and we had to come up with a way to actually get a color logo on those. And from that, we started dealing with vendors, and then Jim decided, you know what, we can do this better and cheaper and faster in-house. So now we have the equipment to do that. So, and that's gone from face masks to lots and lots of T-shirts, and we don't only do the T-shirts in-house, but we also do transfers for other people to buy and then make T-shirts out of. So
yeah, I think a big mistake small business owners make is they don't invest in the infrastructure, the technology. I mean, if you still had those 3 printing presses, what would your business look like compared to what it looks like today?
Yeah, there are guys in Houston who have printing presses that were 5 times as big as ours were, and they need to make payments on those machines. So if we had stayed analog, I knew printers up until 2 or 3, even 4 years ago, who didn't have computers in their shops. I have no idea. I have no idea how they existed. I have no idea. Everything is digital now, and I still have friends who have printing presses, but they're big printing presses, and they're full color printing presses, and they're semi-automatic printing presses. They still have press operators, but those printing presses do more now, and better and faster.
And they're relying on small printers to feed the business
right
that needs to be put on a large press.
So we still do some of that work, and so I have people that we go to that I trust, that when we need that kind of work, because they've already invested in that equipment.
Yeah, I've
invested in a whole different area of equipment. I have printers buying transfers off of me to put on their T-shirts that they need for their customers' 5K run or something. I've got screen printers buying from me because they can't effectively screen print 50 full color images on a T-shirt. I can do that in an hour.
If you don't evolve, we would have. If we hadn't evolved, we would have died.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jane and I during the pandemic were everything before that just seems a blur. We 25 years, and but we were by ourselves for 8 months, almost a year. We had nobody else in the shop with us, and we had the second store in Galveston. Allison, our daughter, was running the second store, and so it was basically just her and one other person down there, and the 2 of us in Clear Lake.
Oh, the graphic artist.
And we had graphic artists, but she was working from home, remotely. And so we just had to make the decision that we were still invested in this, and how were we going to get out of it. And so we came out of it strong. This year will be as good as any year prior to the pandemic.
Great.
Pandemic, yeah.
That's awesome. So let's switch gears a little bit. I've known you guys for years and years, and you guys are so heavily invested in giving back to the community and participating in not only the chamber but other nonprofits. Was that purposeful, or is it just who you are?
No, I don't really think it was purposeful. I have a hard time saying no. I think a lot of that came out of it, and we just started saying yes. And at one point, about 60% of our clientele were not-for-profits. I used to tell people we were the biggest nonprofit printer in Houston until we started making money, and and we're probably the largest. We probably still have 40% of our clients are probably still not-for-profits, if not more. We just have a heart for helping people, I think.
You have to give back to your community. I mean, excuse me, if it wasn't for the community, we wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
It's there, and it just makes you feel good.
Well, and you guys have both been long time involved with the chamber. You've both chaired the organization. What's that brought to you personally, professionally?
I was chairman in 1999 and 2000, and gosh, I remember my very first chamber lunch back in 1994. I guess it was. Lonnie Clements was the chairman.
Another print shop owner.
Print shop owner was just down the street from us. Was the chairman of the board, and a very giving guy, nice guy, helped us out a little bit, when we needed help. But that's just the way it's been in this chamber community. Others have helped us along the way, with whatever we might have needed, and we try to buy as much as we can from other chamber members. Some things just in our industry just aren't available, around here. But it's electrician services, plumbers, all that sort of stuff. And then we find by doing that. And by our giving to the nonprofits, getting back to that those things just come back to us, tenfold. We don't really traditionally market. We've never really traditionally market. We've done it through the Chamber of Commerce. Through Jane and I have each been on boards of other nonprofit organizations and served as in president capacities, and that's the way we grew our business, by kind of giving back, and it sort of came back to us.
Do you have a soft spot for any particular nonprofits?
Education is huge for us.
Yeah.
I came from an education background. I was a school teacher. My parents were both in education, and it's just, it's important. And kids, education and kids. So
communities and schools was a big, still a big part of our lives. For many years, we both longtime board members and presidents of the boards at different times, and we just seen the help that organization has been to kids, in our community. Kids and dogs. We're foster failures for dogs too,
So, what's on the horizon? What's next for Minuteman Press, for the Sweeneys?
Well, we sold our Galveston store in August of this year. We kept it for 5 years, which was our commitment to the franchise. We bought it out of bankruptcy, built it back up, and sold it, which was our commitment, and we did that. And Allison was ready to come back up here to Clear Lake. It's a crazy place in Galveston, and I actually loved it. I loved it down in Galveston, but I don't have the structure myself to be down there and running the business mentally. I'm just kind of all over the place.
Too many other things going on.
Too many other things going on. But for us right now, I think we have the equipment that we need to do almost anything that we need to do right now,
and the staff, I think, too.
And most of it's new. We've continued to invest in the business even 28 years later. Again, we finally have a great staff. We have a full staff, which took us a while to get back up to a full staff. So Jane and I are no longer working 90 hours a week kind of thing. Allison, our daughter, has come up and she's running the operation now. And
it must be rewarding to be able to hand it off and see your child kind of blossom. And
yeah, she has to tell me to step away every now and again,
Not me. It's easy for me to step away.
And where I'm wandering around sometimes with my coffee cup, and she has to give me something to do. So, but that's a great thing, Sometimes I even leave at 4:00. Wow, that's.
So you said you're fully staffed. How do you keep people? That's a hard trick, and a lot of small businesses have struggled with that.
I think we've learned, you've got to make sure that they know that we know. We depend on them, and that, it's going around in the morning and asking them, how was your day? How was your weekend? And trying to remember things about their life. Treating them like a friend but you have the authority. And we have a young staff, which is new, which is nice. It's just a nice group of young people, and they're enthusiastic, and we've had to train most of them, which is kind of nice. We do offer health benefits, which is a plus for keeping them.
Yeah, we pay fair wage. We don't kill anybody. I'm not a taskmaster. Jane's the one that goes around and asks them if they're having a nice day, and that sort of stuff. I just tell them to get back to work, and Here's the next thing on the list. But man, I'm in there with them too. I'm in there working with them.
Yeah.
You know, I don't.
That'll keep you young.
You know, yeah.
I mean, working with young people will keep you young for sure.
Yeah. I think they're all in their 30s. You know.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, we're all carting around. Jane carts around a case of paper. We just everybody pitches in and does what needs to be done to keep the customers happy and coming back and seeing us, because that's everybody's paycheck is dependent on that.
Well, and that's, you said you don't really do a lot of marketing, so it's all about customer retention becomes all about doing a good job, being there for them.
Oh yeah.
And then, you know, you talked about your business development strategies, being there and really getting involved.
We have customers.
We do marketing. We do direct mail. We do a lot of things, just not the cliche kind of marketing, I guess.
Yeah, the franchise method of marketing is going out and knocking on doors, and still to this day, and collecting samples, coming back and quoting them and delivering them again, and, you know, trying to get the first job. I've never done that, and they know that I don't do that, so they never even talk to me about that.
But it doesn't work for us. If you come
Just
knock
doesn't
on
work
my
for
door,
us.
Yeah.
and, you know, I figure why, you know, we'd
Right.
rather go out and get to know somebody. And
But we do, because we sell direct mail, right? So we mailed out 1,000 postcards last month. We'll mail out 2,000 this month. It's just, we do that because it works.
It's still effective.
Still
You need to
effective.
realize that.
Right? Social media, in the transfer end of the business, that's where most of my businesses
your
come from,
website.
social media. Minuteman manages our website, so we pay extra for a pretty large search engine optimization, search engine marketing program, and that brings us a lot of leads. But we still have customers from day one, from 29 years ago, that are still with us.
So let's say I wanted to get involved in a franchise. What advice do you have for somebody looking to possibly get out of whatever it is they're doing, like you did 29 years ago, and find a franchise that they think would work for them? What advice would you give them?
do your homework. We have some really good friends that just recently sold their franchise, and hearing what their franchise expects of them is so different from ours. Ours is very hands-off. The cap is very low as far as our royalty fees. The support is amazing. They come, they visit, but it's not coming to visit to inspect us. It's coming to visit and saying, "Hey, how can we help you?"
Right,
Or-
that's critical. Is finding a franchisor who will support you, and who cares that you grow, and will help you get there to that level that you want to grow to. Because there are some that don't. They just want your royalty check.
Some of them
honestly.
you're just an employee, I think.
Yeah.
Ours is not that way. So I would really do your homework, and I think you're going to find that out not by talking to the franchisor, but by talking to the franchisees.
Others,
Go and
yeah.
talk to them, and not when they're around. Pick up the phone. So like the guy that toured our place today, here's our card. Call us. You don't have to have him there with you, because we'll be on, and we're honest no matter what. But sometimes you get more information. But
Actually, I did that back then. They took me to 4 or 5 places, and I went to 4 other places on my own. I just found where they were, and I just stopped in to visit them. And then one of them recommended a book for me to read, which I read that book, and then the sales guys are the sales guys. They're selling a franchise. That's their job. But having the support system is critical, especially for a new business. I mean, coming out of corporate life, Jane was a teacher. My dad was a longtime entrepreneur, but I was sort of, in another state, in another part of the country, kind of thing. I had the bug, but I wasn't exactly sure what to do. So having a franchise gives you the base. It gives you the structure to start a successful business, but it's all on you.
Yeah, that's as far as it goes, right?
As far as it's all on
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
it's easier to get an SBA loan too, though,
As a franchisee.
That's
because
true.
you have the support.
Okay.
At least with ours, it was.
They
Yeah.
count, at least they did. The SBA counted that as 2 or 3 years of experience if you're going with a franchise, because they have a recipe already built for you.
So there's that.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've had fun. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you, Clear Lake.